Welcome to a special edition of Gospel Truth with Andrew Wommack, a teaching ministry that focuses on God's unconditional love and grace. On today's broadcast, Andrew is joined by David and Tim Barton as they discuss America's systemically anti-racist heritage. And now, here's Andrew.
Welcome to another very special edition of the Gospel Truth. I've got David and Tim Barton from Wall Builders with us, and I tell you, these guys are just awesome. And we've been discussing American history. You know, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, and so many people have been told that there's nothing to be thankful for, that America is totally racist, systemically racist, which is an absolute lie. And we've already dealt with this a couple of days, and we're going to get back into it again today. But you know, we've been talking about the Founding Father. Just so many lies, it's hard to counter them all. But they've been saying that they're all racist, that they were all slave owners. David made a great point that there's only really a few of them that were slave owners, and then most of those actually fought to end slavery. But it was the culture of that day. Like, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are the experts, so you correct me, but George Washington was given a slave, I think, when he was 10 years old. He grew up with it. This is the thing. And they actually, again, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I got this from you guys, that George Washington and George Mason in the 1760s actually petitioned the British government to try and end slavery, and it was disapproved. Is that correct?
Yeah, Washington was a long-time anti-slavery guy, and he did inherit not just one, but a bunch of slaves when he was preteen and teen. And so he inherited a number of slaves, and probably the most onerous slave laws in America came out of Virginia. In Virginia, Jefferson inherited slaves as well. George Washington marries Martha. Martha had slaves, and those slaves that brought into the marriage by the wife are called dower slaves. And under state law, you can never free those slaves, ever. She can't free them, he can't free them. They have to stay slaves and be passed down generation to generation, can never be freed.
Now, this was before the American.
This was before the American.
This was British colony.
This was Virginia colony law. This is not the state. So
Washington, those laws stayed in effect after the Revolution
as
well.
They did.
It's what's interesting in one of the contrasts between Jamestown and Plymouth. We talked about there's two primary colonies, and they both left different legacies. You see this in some of the southern states and the laws they passed, even protecting or preserving the institutes of slavery. It's where Virginia becomes very interesting, because most people that will point out a founding father that owned slaves, they know a founding father that had slaves, they'll point to a founding father from Virginia.
That's right.
Because they were some of the most prominent founding fathers, and most of the guys from Virginia at some point did own slaves. And it's interesting that even though you have these major leaders from Virginia who owned slaves, virtually every single founding father from Virginia spoke out against slavery. Talked about how it needed to end, it needed to stop, this was evil, it was a bad practice. And so you have guys like George Mason, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all of them advocating for the end of slavery in Virginia, and yet they couldn't get enough of the state legislature in Virginia to side with them to actually pass those laws in Virginia to follow suit of what the northern colonies were already doing. When you already had Massachusetts in 1780 or Vermont in 1777, when you can go through the northern states and see all of them passing anti-slavery laws, the southern states did not follow suit. And so even though many founding fathers in the South had sentiments that were very anti-slavery, the laws in their state forbid them. And Thomas Jefferson's a great example, because people point to Jefferson and say, well, but Jefferson, for example, in the Declaration wrote that all men are created equal. And people today say, but he could have meant all men because he had slaves. And you point out, no, wait a second, go back and read his original draft of the Declaration. Because in the original draft, he actually did point out that what was happening with slavery in America, specifically the slave trade, was very wrong, because you were taking people who he identified, he said these were men, and when he wrote men, he wrote the capital M, capital E, capital N. It's the only word that was in full caps in the entire Declaration except...
And that's because pro-slavery people said they're not men, they're animals, they're brutes, they're below subhuman. And that was one of the ways they condoned up here slavery is, these aren't men. Well, Jefferson goes against that.
And it was the only word fully capitalized in the Declaration except for the United States of America was also fully capitalized. So only our nation was capitalized, but also he's identifying the humanities in these individuals. And so Jefferson identified, when he said that all men are created equal, he identified who the men were, and that was everybody.
So can you actually read? I've got a copy here, but I imagine you guys can quote it. What did he write in the Declaration? One of the grievances. I think there was, 38 grievances?
There was 27 grievances.
27.
If 27 in the final copy. There were more than that, and one of them was the longest one, and it was this anti-slave trade grievance that Jefferson had, and it did not make the final cut because wisely John Hancock said, okay guys, here's the deal. If it's not unanimous, we're not putting it in. Because if 10 of us are for it and 3 are against it, the British will go to you 3 and work against us. And if it's a 7-6 split, then the British go to the 6. And so we can't have any division. Everything we do has got to be unanimous. And so what they did was they voted on every single grievance. And if it didn't get 13 out of 13, it didn't go in. The grievance about slavery got 11 out of 13. It got a whole lot. And that kind of tells you where the tone of the Founding Fathers were. When everybody says, oh, they're a bunch of racists, well, then how come 11 of 13 states voted on this clause against slavery, against the slave trade? And Jefferson lamented. He lamented very strongly that if it had not been for South Carolina and Georgia, if it hadn't been for those 2 states, it would have gone through. And later in life, actually, even before he wrote the Declaration, and back up a minute because you were talking about Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson, as you pointed out, so many of the Founding Fathers of Virginia owned slaves and didn't like slavery, which is a real oxymoronic thing. The state legislature was very strongly pro-slavery. And so Jefferson, when he became a legislator in the 1760s, introduced bills to end slavery, and they just about chased him out of the building for introducing the bill. I mean, they were really hostile to it. So Jefferson...
So could he not have gotten rid of his slaves? Was it against the law?
Here's what happened with Jefferson. Jefferson was in debt $2.5 million in debt back then.
That's not adjusted?
And he inherited that from his father-in-law.
I think that is adjusted, though. You're saying
it is adjusted, $2.5 million.
That would be in today's money.
That's today's money, which that's still a big debt.
Yeah.
And so that's today's money. His father-in-law, he inherited that. He had to pay off the debt. Then Jefferson made loans for the American Revolution and lost 99% of the loans he made. So he's in big debt. And the Virginia law says you cannot free any slave if you're in debt because we can take that slave and sell it and get money to pay off your debts, collateral. And so he's not allowed to free any slave he's got. And he is one of the loudest voices for freeing slaves in that era. He actually wrote to France. He took Benjamin Banneker as a great black founding era guy. He's a black scientist. He's the first guy to do an almanac by a black American. Just brilliant. He helped lay out D.C. Thomas Jefferson chose him to help lay out the city of Washington, D.C. as a black man. And so Jefferson took his almanac and sent it to France. And France said, you guys are trying to fight slavery. Anybody who says that a black is not as smart as a white, you give them Benjamin Banneker's almanac. This guy has predicted solar eclipses so far out in the future. He's predicted recurring locust plagues every 17 years. You show them this and show them how smart blacks are. So Jefferson worked across the world in ending slavery. It's interesting, one of Washington's generals, Thaddeus Kosciuszko, came here to fight in the Revolution. He was from Lithuania, and he was a rich nobleman. And when he died, he gave all of his money to Jefferson and said, hey, I know you hate slavery. You take this and use it to fight slavery. Use it to end slavery. So Jefferson has all these world connections, but Jefferson could not free his own slaves. But interestingly, he's trying state legislatures. In 1784, he actually introduced a law in the National Congress to end slavery in all the states, and it failed by one vote. Came within one vote, and Jefferson did that. So there's a book that's come out this year that it's an interesting title. It calls Jefferson the First Emancipationist, and that's got to drive
Well,
radicals
could I get
crazy.
you guys to read this? If you can't quote it, this is your article, but this is what Jefferson wrote in the original draft of the or is it the Declaration?
Declaration. And there's a little more. But this is the beginning of it. It says he has waged cruel war against human nature itself.
He being King George.
Right? Violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty in the persons of distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere, or to incur miserable death in their transportation thither. This piratical warfare, the opprobrium of infidel powers, and infidel is underlined, is the piratical warfare of the Christian king, and Christian king is also underlined.
So King George III claims to be a Christian, but he's acting like an infidel, is the point.
This Christian king of Great Britain determined to keep open a market where men should be bought and sold, he has prostituted his negative for suppressing every legislative attempt to prohibit or to restrain this execrable commerce.
In other words, he's vetoed every law we passed against slavery.
And this was the grievance that Jefferson put in there. And it's also worth noting, even when we look at the Northwest Ordinance, which I think we mentioned a couple days ago, the Northwest Ordinance said every new territory that comes in has to come in as an anti-slavery state. The wording they used for the Northwest Ordinance was actually something Jefferson had written against slavery. And so literally verbatim, they've taken Jefferson's writing and put it in the Northwest Ordinance to say we're not having slavery in any of the new territories. Jefferson was known by almost all former generations as being an anti-slavery guy, even though, right, you're looking and seeing, okay, wait a second. Like, this dude clearly had slaves, but I would point out it's interesting how disconnected we are from biblical truth when we look at American history. Because King David was called a man after God's own heart. And King David was certainly not a perfect man. And we look back at like Washington or Jefferson, and we see imperfections. We see sinful fleshly moments.
Well, could you compare it today to like abortion? We say that we're pro-life, and yet there are abortion laws, and there are, 70 plus million
I use
kids.
that same example because there's going to be a future generation that looks back and said, you were pro-abortion because you lived in a nation that allowed abortion.
That's right.
You're not pro-abortion.
That's right.
Or we even go to the point that today so many people use smartphone technology when, for the iPhone, for example, or some of these Nike products. So many of these things that people buy and use today are made by literal slaves over in China or other places around the world. And we say, oh no, we're anti-slavery, but you're buying things made in slave markets. This is one of those things that...
So one of the problems is being 45 years removed from all of this. We don't understand the context that there was no place on the planet that there wasn't slavery. There were laws. These people could not get rid of it. And yet our founding fathers fought against slavery.
The founding fathers were the first cohesive group of national leaders to start fighting slavery. Nowhere in the world did you have
We started the anti-slavery movement.
And if they had just said, all right, unless Georgia and South Carolina, sign this thing, then if they had just said, all right, well, then we won't rebel, well, they wouldn't have even laid the seeds of freedom. It was a compromise, but they at least laid the seeds of freedom that later brought about an end to slavery.
And the Declaration of Independence was the first document in the world that claimed this incredible notion that all men are equal. Because in the world, at that time, it was largely ruled by kings. And the kings had his nobles, right? And you had serfs and you had peasants. And there wasn't equality in the world. This was a crazy thought. This was the first governing document in the history of the world to espouse the notion that all people could be equal. And literally, the Declaration was the foundation that was used in the rest of the world. When you look at England ending the slave trade with William Wilberforce, the guy leading that charge, William Wilberforce was in direct connection with a lot of leaders in America and was influenced by that notion of the Declaration that all men are created equal. Genuinely, it is honest and true to say that America laid the foundation for the anti-slavery movement around the world. And it's also fair to say the founding fathers, man, they weren't perfect. And we're saying the vast majority of them were anti-slavery. That's true. There, of course, were some founding fathers who were pro-slavery, and we know them. We can list their names.
We can list more than the other side can. I mean, they don't even know who the real pro-slavery founding fathers are.
And this is the point that's important to note is that, right, when we look at some of the accusations made against America today, and even as we're getting ready to celebrate Thanksgiving, and people are saying, well, you can't celebrate Thanksgiving because look at all the bad America's done. It's true, there have been a lot of bad moments in American history. That is unquestionable. And when people argue
such as today, the way we're leaving Afghanistan, but does that make all of us in agreement with the policies that are done?
And you've mentioned several times, like even systemic racism. It's true that in American history, there were times when there were systems of racism, like slavery. That's a system of racism. Sure it was.
It's human nature. It's not American or anything. It's just human nature to oppress people.
But the point that's worth making is America participated in the same evils that everywhere else in the world did. And yet America put a stop to those evils sooner than anywhere else in the world. And it was because of Christians who understood the principles of the Word of God, right? This goes back to the foundation of Plymouth, where these were people who studied the Word of God, who wanted to apply it to their life. And there's actually a lot of stuff we can get into to talk about the foundations of Plymouth and what they actually did, what they gave to America that came from the roots, the principles of Christianity. But it was always, every time someone wants to talk about how bad America was, I always want to ask just very simple questions. You name any grievance you want in American history, and I'm going to ask one question. How or why did that end in America? Because slavery ended, right? You could talk about some of the Jim Crow laws. They ended with the Civil Rights era. How did those things end? And you pick any atrocity you want. It doesn't matter. You pick any atrocity. How did those end? And I will point out, without exception, it was always the pastors, the Christians, the churches, those spiritual leaders in America who knew what the Word of God said, saying, we have to stop this in America. One of the reasons America's been the most stable, the most prosperous, the most blessed nation in the history of the world has been because of the impact of Christianity in this nation. And the more our nation struggles, it's a reflection that we are lacking those principles of Christianity, the application, or sometimes even we're lacking the spiritual leadership of pastors around the nation standing up saying, guys, we shouldn't be doing this. And this is one of the things that even we talk about the Pilgrims and Thanksgiving, absolutely we should be thankful for this nation because no nation has brought more freedom, more prosperity, more stability in the world. And right now, again, genuinely, America's not been a perfect nation. We can go back to the 1619 Project, and there are some things that they say in there, some things that are true. Now, the vast majority of what they claim is not historically founded.
Part of the narrative they've got, too, is going back to the Marxist thing we talked about yesterday of oppressed and oppressors, sitting the two groups. And right now, it's really black and white. They have made it a color issue. Now, biblically, God doesn't see color. God doesn't look on the outside, he looks on the inside. With him, there's neither Jew nor Greek, Scythian nor free. I mean, he sees all men the same. It's the inside he sees. These guys are fixated on the outside, and even there, they totally miss the narrative. At the time Columbus landed in the New World, between 20 and 40% of Native Americans in North America were enslaved by other Native Americans.
Yeah.
And that's not white and black. And so then...
So what would the percentage be like, for instance, of slaves in the early colonies versus Indians having slaves?
And that's an interesting question, because when you look at the early colonies, let's take, for example, a guy who's the father of black history. And so the father of black history in 1830 looked at the 1830 census, early colonies, and he did this in 1930. He published a book in 1930 or 31, thereabouts, and he looked back 100 years. He said he went through the census, and so the father of black history said he found that in South Carolina, 43% of free blacks, not enslaved, but free blacks, 43% of free blacks owned black slaves in South Carolina. And 40% of free blacks in Georgia. And so there was a high percentage. Now, granted, there were more whites than blacks and more slaves were owned by whites than blacks, but still, it's not just white on black.
Yeah.
And then in the 1860 census, the federal government points out that at that time, as you look at all the slave population, about 8% of America was slaves. So 92% of America was not slave. In the South, it was higher. It was about somewhere around 20, 25%. So overall nation, overall South, it's worse there. But the highest percentage slave owners in America were Native Americans owning black slaves. The 5 major Native American tribes in 1860, 1 out of every 8 members of the Native American tribe was a black slave. So even the white on black doesn't hold up. What you got to have is human on human. That's what holds up. The sin nature holds up, and so it's not a color issue.
So I don't want to throw you guys off, but could you go back to like Anthony Johnson? This goes back into the 1630s, if I'm not mistaken, and he was the first legal slave owner for life.
What's interesting, we talked about the indentured servants, the 19 slaves that arrived in Jamestown that became indentured servants, and not all 19 names are known, but one of the individuals that some people think actually was one of those original 19 was a guy named Anthony Johnson. What we do know is that Anthony Johnson was a black man who came to America, became an indentured servant. And at the end of 7 years, he was given freedom, became a landowner, actually got married, raised a family.
Wasn't it like over 100 acres he was?
250.
Yeah.
Yes, and actually his wealth was growing, and he decided that he wanted to help indentured servants, so he would pay to bring people in, and they would work for him for 7 years, and they would help grow his economy, right? Grow his productivity of what they were doing. And one of the guys that he indentured was a guy named John Kaser. John Kaser was another black man who had come to America. And apparently John Kaser was not the most productive, was not the hardest worker. At least that's part of the accusation against him. And Anthony Johnson was so displeased with John Kaser, they had a very rough relationship. At the end of 7 years, John Kaser's indenture was done, but Anthony Johnson was so frustrated that he said, I'm going to take you to court and I'm going to sue to have you for the rest of your life. Well, John Kaser being a little nervous what was going to happen, John Kaser went to a white man and said, hey, will you please indenture me? I want to work for you so I have some level of protection because I'm scared of what Anthony Johnson might try to do to me. So John Kaser went and indentured himself for another 7 years. And actually, even this notion of continuing to indenture yourself was not unfounded, because if you're working for somebody, they're taking care of your room and your board, right? There are levels of security.
You're getting free education, you're getting school, training, apprenticeship.
Sounds like welfare today.
Well, except maybe there's a level of requirement.
But it wasn't
right?
government involved.
The level of requirement, because you were required to go do labor. You were required to go do work. And so John Kaser indentures himself to this white family, but Anthony Johnson's able to take him to court. And when he got to court, he presented before a white judge and said, this man for the last several years have done nothing really to benefit me. And the judge agreed, seeing how unproductive John Kaser was. And so Anthony Johnson and the judge negotiated and agreed that John Kaser would become a slave for the rest of his life to Anthony Johnson to pay off the debt that was owed.
And just to be clear, Anthony Johnson's a black man, John Kaser's a black man.
And this was the first case of chattel slavery in America. And chattel slavery slavery was legal in America prior to this under primarily two conditions. Either under just war, which for the history of the world, right? I mean, back in the 1600s, go back forever. If you were a people conquering or attacking another people, if one people conquers another people, at the end of that war, there's only two options for the survivors. You either kill them or you enslave them.
And that's the story of the Old Testament. I mean, that's what David's men did. That's what the Canaanites did. That's what the Egyptians did. Every nation did.
That was the history of the world. So that was one option. The second thing is that if you committed a crime, they would imprison you, and they called it a limited slave ship where you were enslaved for like 20 years. But it was different because they would put you like breaking rocks or building roads or chopping down trees. So it was hard labor, but at the end of your 20 years of hard labor, and whatever it was, it might have been 5 years, 10 years, but at the end of hard labor, you were freed. So slavery was legally under those two conditions. This was the first time in American history that you could legally enslave someone that you had not conquered in a justified war or that had not committed a crime. This was just because the other man, some judge ruled that you could own him for the remainder of his life. And that is where chattel slavery started in America, was 1653, where a black man owned another black man for the remainder of his life.
So slavery, legal slavery, where you owned a person for the rest of their life, was actually started by black on black.
It was.
That was the first legal case in the American colonies.
I tell you, this is awesome. This is awesome. And again, nobody here is promoting slavery, but we're trying to put everything into its context and let people recognize that the way they're saying America is systemically racist is a lie. Mm-hmm. America is systemically anti-racist. We are the ones that started sowing these seeds.
Yes. It is systemically human, which means you have sin involved.
That's right.
But it's not racist, it's human.
Man, that's awesome. I hope that the people watching this are being blessed by this. This is one of the reasons I wanted the Bartons to come on, is because, man, we need to be praising God for this nation. We've had forefathers that have put their life on their line, their liberty, their finances, everything, and they are getting a bad rap today. They are being lied about. And so I believe that at Thanksgiving, we need to be giving praise to God for this nation and for the people who founded it. And so that's the reason that we've had them come on. We've got a number of things that we're offering. We're offering my teaching on the effects of praise, which is talking about how praise or thanksgiving affects you, how it affects the devil, and how it affects God. Most people don't know how that God gets really blessed when we are thankful. I've got CDs and DVDs. We're also offering a little thing that Wall Builders puts out, Thanksgiving in America, and this will go into the history from the Plymouth colony. Anyway, our announcer will give you all the information, so please listen and call or write today.
Today, you saw a portion of Andrew's interview with David and Tim Barton as they discuss America's systemically anti-racist heritage. If you'd like more information about David and Tim Barton, visit their website at wallbuilders.com.
These programs that we've done for the Thanksgiving season, I believe, are really timely. I encourage you to please get these materials. I'm offering my teaching on the effects of praise. I've got a book on it, CDs and DVDs. And then my interview with David and Tim Barton are what I'm calling systemically anti-racist, where we're setting straight the true history of America and countering all of these lies that are being spoken. There's also a free little booklet about Thanksgiving that comes from the Bartons, and our announcer will give you all of the material. I encourage you to please check it out, respond, and get these materials today.
This entire interview is available in either a CD or DVD album made from our daily television broadcast. You can also get Andrew's 3-week series titled The Effects of Praise Today. This series is available as a book or in a CD or DVD album made from our daily television broadcast. Each of these valuable resources are available for a gift of any amount when you contact us. As a special offer, you can get the Thanksgiving in America tract for free today when you write or call. This offer is limited to 1 free item per household and is available in the US and Canada. You can order resources through our website at awmi.net. While there, you can discover more product details and download additional free resources. You can also order resources or receive prayer by calling our helpline at 719-635-1111. Our helpline is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To write us, use the address on your screen. We appreciate your generosity and hope to hear from you today.
I'd like to ask you to pray about becoming a partner with us. You know, our ministry is based in the United States, but we have 16 offices around the world. We've got altogether around 70 Bible schools scattered around the world, and we actually reach more people outside of the U.S. than we do in the U.S., and we need partners to enable us to do that. And so I'd like to encourage you to join with us. There are great benefits to you being a partner, not only in eternity, but here in this life. So if you are looking for a good return on your investment, I believe that this is a good ministry. It'll touch you right where you are. So join with us and become a partner with us today.
I tell you, I'm excited. God is going to do something special during these meetings.
God has put such a compassion in Andrew's heart to teach the truth that what Jesus did for us.
I'm telling you, in the Spirit, you've got more power than the devil, more power than cancer, more power than poverty, more power than depression. You've got whatever it is that you need.
It's a great way to start the year, and we just love the testimonies, the ministry, and the Word.
Andrew's teaching and the love that he has for God's Word and truth. It is the gospel truth.
I want to let you know that we have now started a Charis Daily live Bible study. We've been doing a Bible study every Tuesday night live for about 2 years, but now we have 5 days a week. We've varied the times so that we can accommodate anybody's schedule, and it's going to really be good. We're going to use our instructors from the school, and it'll be a blessing. So remember, we now have a Charis Daily live Bible study 5 days a week.
Did you hear about our website? We designed it with you in mind. Now you can browse on all your mobile devices. It's fast, easy, and it just makes sense. Check it out at awmi.net.